Please welcome the Vice President of Amazon Redshift at AWS, Sarish Chandrasekharan, and the Director of Data Processing and Experiences at AWS, Rick Sears.
When you imagine innovation, you likely picture a lone genius struggling through a hard problem, deep in thought, until that eureka moment finally hits them. And you might be right part of the time. But what we find is that innovation often happens with teams working together to build that next great thing. And so we like to think of innovation often happening as a team sport.
100%. Rick, you know I'm a huge soccer fan, my whole family, in fact. And one of the most magical moments of live sports that I've had the pleasure to watch was when my wife and I saw Barca in their heyday. Xavi, Iniesta, Messi, all in their prime. And as amazing as each one of these players is, capable of a touch of brilliance that can change a game, what was magical to me was tiki-taka. The philosophy of passing the ball, moving in sync, the seamless teamwork where a collection of brilliant individuals comes together for a common purpose. And while most of my customers typically work off the soccer pitch, the teamwork and collaboration that I see among them is very similar. Don't you think so, Rick?
Agree 100%, and love the analogy. And just like with tiki-taka, innovation is all about working through a tough problem in a new way. But what we often find is that what powers this innovation is teams working together. The stories I hear from customers are about day-to-day challenges getting the job done. Much like a soccer team strategizing to move the ball from midfield to the goal, each team member in a data and AI project comes with their own unique skills. But they constantly have to tag team or work together to move the ball down the field, if you will.
Yep.
To build that next great dashboard, or to develop that next amazing forecasting model, or to stitch together a knowledge base that powers that next killer generative AI app. Hi, I'm Rick Sears, Director of Data Processing and Experiences at AWS.
And I'm Sarish. I'm the VP of Amazon Redshift. And we're going to talk to you about how AWS is innovating on your behalf to make it easier to collaborate across the end-to-end data, analytics, machine learning, and AI lifecycle so that you can deliver faster and you can deliver more value to your customers. To illustrate this, we will follow the journey of Maxdome, a fictional game development studio that just released their latest game. The game, which is called Red Lake Redemption, is a massive success. It has captured the attention of gamers and has shot to the top of the charts. And the Maxdome team is eager to capitalize on this success by iterating rapidly and delivering tailored new experiences to keep their players engaged. Experiences based on insights from player engagement, both with the game and with each other. The team, which consists of a data engineer, a data scientist, an analyst, and an app developer, is working really hard to get to these insights. But time is of the essence here.
So let's meet the team at Maxdome. Samantha, the data engineer, Javier, the data scientist, Anisha, the analyst, and Alex, the app developer. Like many of your teams, they're working in a world where the boundaries between data, analytics, and AI are blurring. And easily working with data and getting rapid insights from data is crucial. Nisha is eager to unlock all she can from the data about players, loving all the latest games coming from Maxdome. But she struggles to get access to the right data quickly, and she often has to tweak the data to make it work for her analytics. Samantha is doing awesome work building better and better data pipelines, but wants to get more data from more data sources into her hands without a ton of work. Javier is creating impressive AI models, but wants to share them more easily with the rest of his team, and he also wants to get them into production as quickly as possible. And meanwhile, Alex is excited about bringing together all types of player data with the latest AI models into his games. He is, like many of you, pushing more and more generative AI capabilities into the player experience as well. But he needs easy ways to work and connect with all the other things that is happening across his team at Maxdome. What do you think? Does this sound familiar to you, Suresh?
It does. With Gen AI unlocking the next frontier of insights and productivity for organizations, it is even more clear than ever before that your data is your differentiator to provide value to your customers, your partners, employees, and other stakeholders. And what this means is that you need all of your data available for all of your team via the tools that they use. And the different tools that these different team members use must seamlessly work together. Imagine a platform where your team works together as one, a unified data and AI experience which enables seamless collaboration. And that is Amazon SageMaker. Rick will now introduce you to the next generation of the Amazon SageMaker platform. Toyota and New York Life will talk about how they envision transformation for their customers with this platform. And we will dive deeper into the capabilities and components that we now offer.
Thanks, Suresh. Over the years, I've had the pleasure of helping countless customers in their transformations into the cloud. And the key to these transformations has always been data, because at their core, every modern business is a data business. Today, we're having many of the similar conversations, but the topics are increasingly turning towards using data for AI, and particularly generative AI. With AWS, you have a comprehensive set of foundational data storage, analytics, data processing, governance, and AI services, all well known for their reliability, scale, and performance. But we're always looking for better ways to help our customers make use of their data. And so we've taken Amazon SageMaker, a service used by hundreds of thousands of customers to build and train their AI models, including LLMs and foundational models used in generative AI, and combined it with a comprehensive set of data analytics, data processing, governance, and generative AI app building services such as Amazon Bedrock, Redshift, EMR, Athena, Glue, Managed Airflow, and Lake Formation to create the next generation of Amazon SageMaker, your center for data, analytics, and AI. The next generation of Amazon SageMaker is a platform that brings together all of your favorite tools and capabilities into a unified experience with unified tools and a unified data access layer. Today, we're going to talk about 3 major areas of the platform and walk through how the Maxdome team, as well as many of you, can experience this platform to drive better collaboration on data and AI projects. First, we'll walk through the unified development experience that we like to call Amazon SageMaker Unified Studio. The Unified Studio offers an integrated experience for data preparation, data analytics, model building, and generative AI application development. Unifying tools you use every day, such as query editors and notebooks, across services, using the actual existing services to power those workloads, with plans to support streaming, search, and BI in 2025. Next, Suresh will walk through how the data is unified as part of the Amazon SageMaker Lakehouse. SageMaker Lakehouse supports data lakes together with data warehouses and also has easy access to federated data sources, all through a single unified and secure access layer using an open API. And finally, throughout this talk, we will both highlight how governance is woven through the process at every turn, providing a performant, open, and secure data foundation powered by the Amazon SageMaker catalog, built on the governance capabilities of DataZone. Let's dive deeper. The entry point to Amazon SageMaker is the new unified and personalized studio experience, Amazon SageMaker Unified Studio. To get started with the Unified Studio, users log in to a simplified single sign-on experience, supporting both Identity Center, SAML, and IAM users. Once they log in, they see the home page, which gives them quick access to commonly used tools such as the data catalog or the generative AI playground. And they also have available tools, including many of the existing SageMaker and Bedrock tools available in the top left nav. This also includes tools that are used across analytics, data processing, and AI, such as Jupyter Notebooks and a SQL query editor, all together as one, all in the same UI. You're likely already familiar with the SQL query editor in Amazon Redshift and Athena, as well as the Jupyter Notebook experience in Glue Studio, EMR Studio, and the existing SageMaker Studio. These tools are now unified as part of the Amazon SageMaker Unified Studio, where you have one consistent notebook experience and one consistent query editor experience, spanning across these services, allowing you to choose the engine without having to jump from one UI to another. Projects are where a team collaborates. From the home screen, users can jump into all of their in-progress projects and see what they're working on. Users can create new projects at any time, and they can also invite other members of their team to join a project to collaborate with. In a project, the team shares code, backed by a Git repository. They also share the data assets they're working with, such as data lake tables and data warehouse tables. And they even share compute, such as an EMR cluster or a Redshift serverless endpoint. Project leads can have everything already set up for the team through project templates, so that the team can get started quickly. So no more spending time on infrastructure setup or figuring out what other compute has already been set up by the rest of the team. Also, figuring out what queries or notebooks are already written to get the job done, or even the existing data sets that have already been in use by the team to build that next awesome generative AI app. Everything teams need to collaborate is available together in one place. And our team at Maxdome, they really need this, as I'm sure many of you do as well. So let's take a look at the experience this new experience helps the Maxdome team to get their job done. Nisha is just getting started with her day. After logging into the Unified Studio, she takes a look at all of her in-progress projects. She wants to do a deep dive on the player experience of their brand new game, Red Lake Redemption. So she selects her project, RL_redemption. Nisha lands on the project homepage. There she can see all of the existing code and queries and notebooks that the rest of the team has already checked in to their Git repository. She wants to do some queries on player stats. And so she clicks on the top left nav, the build in the top left lab to jump into the query editor. When she enters a query editor, on the left, she sees the data browser with all the tables she has access to. She wants to explore data on players. And so she chooses the game sessions table and runs a query using Athena to get some sample data. She likes the raw data, but she wants to make better use of that data. She doesn't remember all the ways in which she needs to query the data. And so she pops into Q. And she asks Q for a new query that groups the top 5 players by playtime minutes. She's using natural language and plain text to be able to ask for this query. And Q understands that she's in the query editor, using Athena, and what table she has access to be able to create a query that is correct for running in Athena. She runs the query, sees the data, and thinks it's great, but wants to do more with it. So she pops back into Q. This time, she asks for a new query that takes the players and groups them into 3 distinct groups by playtime minutes and country. She hasn't said anything about what types of groups they want, but Q figures out that the best way to represent that would be a high, medium, and low category. Nisha hasn't asked for that, but Q figured out what she wanted and what she needed. She loves this, and so she copies it back into the query editor, runs it, and verifies that this is the right data for her to move forward. She's ready to get started. Nisha used one of the cool new features that we've integrated into the Unified Studio, the Amazon Q Generative SQL. Amazon Q Generative SQL launched GA last year as part of the Redshift query editor. It is now part of the query editor in the Unified Studio. So Nisha can use a chat interface for submitting natural language queries. Q analyzes user intent, query patterns, and the schema metadata to generate SQL code recommendations that are tailored to Nisha's specific data model and business logic. And it leverages query history to improve accuracy over time. This has saved Nisha a ton of time, and we know it will help you all save time in writing better and better SQL with a lot less effort. Nisha continues running a bunch of queries to join more tables and do additional calculations. She uses queue suggestion to join tables. She creates a new table, the player segmentation table, that is going to be used and shared with the rest of her team. She does this by using a create table statement back in the query editor that creates a new table from the results of her previous query. When she does this, she refreshes the data browser and sees that the table has automatically been registered in the SageMaker catalog. This would have taken her a lot of time to figure out how to get the table into the catalog, how to figure out the next steps. But now she knows exactly how to do it, and it's done for her in the SageMaker catalog. This has saved her a ton of time. So Nisha continues to do a bunch of work and figuring out new queries. She's using Q to get more information on players. And she's got this new analysis that she's really, really interested in. And she knows that this new analysis is something that her line of business partner could make really good use of. And so she wants to share it across the organization. So Nisha goes back in and selects the player segmentation table with a right click and says Publish into Catalog. This adds the catalog into the SageMaker catalog. But she wants to make the table better understood by her line of business partner. And so she notices that the Gen AI AutoDoc capabilities of SageMaker Catalog have suggested relevant table names and descriptions. So she accepts the descriptions and now has column descriptions that can be read by her line of business partner to make sense of the table. She republishes the table in the SageMaker Catalog so that the rest of her organization can use the table as well. What Nisha has been using this time is the generative AI recommendations capabilities of SageMaker Catalog. These recommendations launched as part of DataZone last year, GA, and just like all the other features of DataZone, are now integrated into the Unified Studio. This saved Nisha a ton of time in trying to figure out all of the relevant descriptions and summaries and column names and column descriptions that should be placed on her table. And she's really excited about all the different generative AI capabilities that power all the different parts of the experience in the Unified Studio. And oh, by the way, Nisha has been regularly checking in her code into the Git repository. This helps her keep all of her work saved and also helps others on the team at MaxDome make use of the valuable insights that she's already gotten. But she's also checked in her table into the SageMaker catalog. And so it can help others, like Javier, jump right into his analysis to build the next model in his development project. So Javier logs in the next day, and he remembers hearing that Nisha has created this new view of player data. Javier jumps into his own gaming analysis project, where he has built a classification model. But from this project, he can search the organization's business catalog using Amazon SageMaker Catalog. He finds a player segmentation table that Nisha has published, and he clicks to subscribe to the table. This sends a notification to Nisha. Once she approves, then Javier has access to this table within his own project that he can use as part of building his next model. Next, Javier opens up the visual SageMaker pipeline editor that's integrated into the Unified Studio to train his model. He already has the notebook set up, but hasn't done any model training in his pipeline. So he creates the flow by dragging in the steps he needs and then runs the training for the model. This has only taken him tens of seconds to go from having an idea, having a new data set, and creating a model training flow to get his model into production. Javier publishes the model again into the SageMaker catalog, just like Nisha published her data set, her data table, into the same SageMaker catalog. So now Alex is able to search the catalog and find this model. He can subscribe to it, just like Javier subscribed to Nisha's table, and build a SageMaker endpoint to invoke the model from his Play Store app. This has saved him hours of effort going back and forth with Javier to get permissions on the model, as well as setting up an inference endpoint. And it lets him dive right in to building a personalization into the Play Store app. But Alex is also working on a generative AI experience for the Play Store to allow users to use a chat assistant for game add-ons that they're looking for. Alex uses the Bedrock IDE, which launched as a preview as Bedrock Studio last year and is now fully integrated into the Unified Studio. So Alex can use that to create a new chat app in his own project, and then also he can select any foundational model that's hosted by Bedrock and make use of it in his new project. He can configure default prompts, he can experiment with tuning parameters, he can also disallow unwanted prompts with guardrails, all within the unified studio. And once he is sure everything's great, he can also publish his Bedrock app into the same SageMaker Studio to share with the rest of the org, so that others at Maxdome can discover the app, subscribe to it, and try it out before the app goes into production. So you can see that this is near real-time collaboration, all within the shared experience of the unified studio. You can now also accelerate time to insight and shorten your development cycles. You can build much more optimized customer experiences like the one Alex is going to build, based on access to much better data and much better insights and easy ways to tag team across the teams, just like the ones at Maxdome. Now I invite Kamal Distel from Toyota Motors North America to talk about how she envisions using the next generation Amazon SageMaker platform for her workloads. Thanks.
That's how I peel into work every day, so just want you to know. That also is the life of a data and technology professional, right? Don't you feel like you're doing donuts most of the time? I'm Kamal Distel, delighted to be here with you all today, and thank you for taking the time to come and listen and learn. Rick had an amazing story about capabilities. Apparently I'm supposed to click, so here we go. The goal of this section is really to talk to you about how do you make things real? How do we use some of the capabilities and the promise that's coming up, right? But let me give you a little bit about Toyota first. So it is I think everybody should know Toyota here, should know the Lexus brand as well. It's a $140 billion business, right? We have 12 plants, plus another one, 13, which is the battery plant. Just in North America, we have 63,000 employees. We have 1,800 dealers that we actually service. So this is not chump change, right? This is a big entity. And with that entity, we have terabytes and terabytes of data all over. We have petabytes of information all over the place, right, in terms of our data lakes and so forth. We have thousands of active users, as I just mentioned, and many, many, many applications, right? So this is a large entity. So what do you do? How do you support this large entity? The way you support it is first in terms of having and setting this vision. So our vision, number one, is we are a multi-stack organization. What does that mean? Certainly a lot of AWS, but we also leverage capabilities from many other stacks, right? I can't imagine that many of you aren't doing the same. Second, interconnected data and machine learning ecosystem. Keyword, interconnected. What does that mean? That means that there will never be a time, right, that we will be able to have and host all information in a wonderful lakehouse, right? It's not even feasible or possible, and lots of budget will be needed, et cetera. So how we think about that interconnectedness and how some of the tools that Rick and Suresh have been talking about, how do they fit and how do they help, right, for the future? Third, smart access to data. Smart is in quotes. And what that means is the who, what, when, where, why. So at any given point in time, right, it doesn't matter, privacy, cybersecurity, you should know who has access to data for what, when, what are they doing, and why. Much harder to build, but can be done. And most importantly, right, what people forget, value. So we love our use cases, we love doing many, many, many things, right, across the board, but have you really taken the time to actually demonstrate true value, true return on investment? That is a core tenet of who we are, and that is a core tenet of what I talk to my team to say, if you cannot produce that particular value, go back to the table and let's figure out what it is that we need to do next. For this slide, let's squint really hard and actually try to identify all of the tools here. That's not the point. So let me walk you through. This is the AWS part of our stack, and probably many, many things aren't even listed here. But let me walk you through a real challenge, right? We love use cases, so here's a use case. Quality team comes to you and me and says, hey, further down the line, we've discovered some challenges. I'm going to keep it vague, because then you'll go back and say, oh, this car has this challenge, and this car has that challenge, so not going to tell you what those issues are. But it doesn't matter what industry you're in, you all have this scenario. So quality teams coming and saying, hey, we have a problem further down the line, right? We have some variation that seems to be showing up. Great. What do? You set some hypotheses. OK, hypothesis 1, I think it may be one of the robots, or maybe a couple of the robots. OK, great. Hypothesis 2, could be some people variation. Somebody on the line may not be doing something appropriately, et cetera. OK, so then what do? Then you raise a bunch of tickets, right? You're like, where's my data? Who has access to this? How do I get a hold of it? Where's my data scientist? Can you access this data? Is it sitting in somebody's machine? Like, where's that machine, right? All of these things start to come about. And so what do? You scramble really hard. You try to pull together. You're like, what data is in the data lake? What's in the lake house? Where's the database, right, that has XYZ information? Does this seem resonating with all of you? Does it seem reasonable? This doesn't happen in your organizations, correct? It does. So what do? Let me talk through 3 challenges, right? There are many, many challenges in what I described. But here are 3. Number 1, access to data, right? So let's say an analyst needs to come in and then be able to look at the information, say, all right, what exactly may be happening? How do I determine the process variation? How do I build a particular model from a data scientist perspective and say, hey, you know what? I need to be able to have access to this data or that data. Challenge number 1. Challenge number 2, once I've built my model, can I deploy it really easily? Right? If I want to co-collaborate with other folks, and I want to see that it's not just one robot, maybe there are 2 robots that are having the challenge. How do I make sure I pull in my other data scientists into the mix, right? And be thinking about what kind of predictive models we can build, and to understand the variation in terms of machine reliability. Challenge number 3, where's all my data? Sitting many different places, right? So what I'm really excited about is thinking through what Rick presented and what Suresh will present. How do we think through those 3 challenges? So let me walk you through the thought process here. Access to data. I think Rick presented that now the goal is to make sure that we have safe, secure access to information all through the SageMaker Unified Studio. That's exciting, right? Number 2, he also presented that within the same ecosystem, right, with SageMaker Unified Studio, different personas can collaborate, right? So the data scientist is in there, the analyst is in there, so that you're not thinking through hunting for information and data. You're really thinking about how to add value so that you can quickly understand what the problem was, what the machine reliability was, get it in front of the folks that are on the floor, and start working on the next problem. And then put together some predictions, right, to be able to say, hey, what happens next? And number 3, which you are going to hear a lot more about, is really making sure that you're thinking through that unification of the information with the lakehouse. So SageMaker Lakehouse has some promise so that I don't have to pull all my data from many different places into one. I now can reach out and be able to connect to particular databases. Maybe your data sitting in a lakehouse. Maybe your data sitting in a data lake. Maybe it's sitting in another pond, puddle, swamp somewhere. So now I have the ability to think about that interconnected network that I spoke about. So I'm really excited to be partnering with AWS alongside my team to be able to showcase the promise of the future and build these capabilities and test these capabilities together so that some of the core challenges that we all face can really be a thing of the past, and we're focusing on adding value rather than chasing information. So with this, I think I'm supposed to welcome Suresh to the floor here.
Thank you, Kamal. What an inspiring vision.
Thank you.
You know, the story we just heard from Toyota brilliantly captures the incredible potential we see across our customer base from forward-thinking, data-driven companies that are looking to unify their experiences and data across their organization. However, most companies today are trapped in a complex web of data silos and custom pipelines, which means that they expend an inordinate amount of energy, sometimes days, even weeks, on the plumbing to get the data into the hands of their team members safely and via the tools they use. When in fact, they'd much rather be spending their time on extracting valuable insights and directly driving innovation for their end customers. Amazon SageMaker Lakehouse cuts through this web and enables you to focus on your differentiators. It does this by giving you a unified, open, and secure data environment. SageMaker Lakehouse is unified. One copy of data across multiple and different types of data sources for all your tools, regardless of how and where the data is physically stored. SageMaker Lakehouse is open. We embrace open standards, specifically Apache Iceberg, which empowers you to bring any tool you'd prefer, whether it's an AWS service like Redshift, EMR, Glue, Bedrock, or SageMaker, or a third-party engine to tap into all of this data. And most important, SageMaker Lakehouse is secure with integrated fine-grained permission control and unified data governance that reflects across all of the data in this lakehouse. Now, I'd like to dive a little deeper and give you a look under the hood into the machinery of the lakehouse, starting with unification. And on this front, we like to say that we have reimagined the lakehouse approach. Lakehouses arose from the growing demand from our customers to bring together the best of two worlds, the world of warehouses and the world of data lakes, marrying the performance and asset transactions from data warehouses with the flexibility and scale of the lake. Most companies start with either the warehouse or the lake. Over time, they find themselves needing both, because these are purpose-built data stores, each with their own benefits. As the data in the organization grows and more sources come into play, companies find themselves more and more burdened with the plumbing to get this data into the warehouse or into the lake. And before you know it, you have multiple copies of data across these different data stores, increasing your cost, creating a risk in terms of inconsistent governance, and you end up with a very complex architecture. AWS has been investing for years in enabling seamless data integrations between different data sources, and in bringing the warehouse and the lake together. In 2017, Redshift first introduced the concept of the lakehouse by enabling customers to query data in an S3 bucket, so data on the lake, directly from within a Redshift data warehouse cluster. This paved the way for several more integrations between the lake and the warehouse. In 2020, both Athena and Redshift introduced federated query processing. And in 2022, we introduced the concept of zero ETL, simplifying data movement into the warehouse within seconds of it being written in a transactional system. We began by bringing Amazon Aurora data into Redshift, and we've followed rapidly with support for other sources, such as DynamoDB and RDS. But we have also invested in integrations that go the other way. In 2022, we open-sourced a custom connector that allows customers to query data residing within a Redshift data warehouse from a Spark engine of their choice, whether it's EMR, a custom Spark implementation, or a third-party engine. And now, we have 8 more zero ETL integrations with enterprise applications. I'm referring to the announcement that Matt made yesterday, where we launched zero ETL integrations with popular SaaS applications like Salesforce, SAP, Zendesk, ServiceNow, with the target for the data being the Amazon SageMaker Lakehouse. And that is how, once again, we have reimagined the concept of the Lakehouse by bringing together not just data from a warehouse and a lake, but by extending this capability to your databases and to federated sources. So that was about unification. The next step is getting this data to be available to all the tools that your team members use. And we do this through our support for Apache Iceberg API. Iceberg, as you probably know, is a popular table format. It supports performant and concurrent access to lake data with ACID transactions. The technical catalog for SageMaker Lakehouse is actually Glue Data Catalog under the covers, and it now supports the Iceberg REST Catalog API. And what this means, as I mentioned before, is that you can bring any Apache Iceberg-compatible engine, whether it's Redshift, EMR, Glue, or any of other first-party services, or a tool of your choice to tap into the Lakehouse. So completely open and interoperable. And then, of course, the most important thing, you have all this data in one place. It needs to be secure. You want to make sure that the people who can access the data or a subset of data are the ones with permissions to it. And this permissioning scheme has to be fine-grained. SageMaker Lakehouse enables exactly this. It has integrated fine-grained permissions that you can apply to all of the data in the Lakehouse, whether it originated in the warehouse, S3, an operational database, or a federated source. And it has unified governance through the SageMaker catalog. And this gives you the assurance that you can specify your governance policies once and have your data controls applied across all your data, no matter how it is accessed. So that was a quick look under the covers on the machinery of the Lakehouse. Let's pop back up a level and look at the user experience. And we'll do it through the eyes of Nisha, who you'll remember as the data analyst. And specifically, we'll look at how she gets access to new data sources. And we're going to do a bit of a before-after. In the past, it would have taken days or weeks for Nisha to get this data. She'd first have to figure out what data she needs. Then she'd have to figure out where it resides, raise a ticket with IT, and then maybe a day, a week for IT to prioritize it. And finally, after all of this, when IT gets to it, they have to figure out the plumbing to get this data back into the tool that Nisha uses. This whole thing could take a day, a week, a month. A month. All the gamers could have easily moved on to the next game. And Maxdome could have squandered its opportunity. Luckily for Maxdome, they're using the next generation of Amazon SageMaker platform, which dramatically simplifies how Nisha can get access to new data sources. Let's take a look. So she's in the Unified Studio and on the Data tab, and she sees that there's a link for the Lakehouse. So she clicks on this, and she already sees that there's data in S3, stuff that's relevant to the project. So she clicks on that, and she notices that there's player recording data and social media data. Exactly what we mentioned earlier, she needs to deliver tailored experiences for her customers, for her players. And this data sits in something called S3 tables. S3 tables, which we announced yesterday, are the easiest way for you to get tabular data into the lake. When you store your tabular data, Iceberg data, in an S3 table, S3 takes care of all the heavy lifting of Iceberg maintenance. This includes Iceberg compaction, removal of unreferenced files, snapshot management, so you can focus on the tasks that are specific to your business and allow S3 to continuously optimize the data for performance and cost, even as the data scales. Coming back to the studio, Nisha also sees that there's data in Redshift. So clicking on that, she sees that there is player purchase data, in-game activity, and player metrics. Now, this last bit is actually quite cool, because it's near real-time gamer telemetry data. And that's because within seconds of it being written into an Amazon Aurora database, it's zero ETL back into the lakehouse so you can use it for analytics. Very cool. Now, as Nisha continues her analysis, she realizes, hey, I could actually use demographic data, but she doesn't know where to find it. So she goes, clicks on the Amazon Q button, asks in natural language, what data sets do we have on demographics? And right away, Q comes back with the actual data set, a recommendation. Nisha clicks on it, looks at the data, and says, hey, this is exactly what I want, hit subscribe. And she's going to have access to this data very soon. So as you can see, Amazon Q can transform every step of your journey when using Amazon SageMaker Lakehouse. Everything from data discovery through to interacting with the data. Now, we've talked about the consumption experience, Nisha's experience in terms of accessing data. But how did it get there in the first place? Turns out, Samantha, our data engineer, has been hard at work. Previously, she went to the AWS Management Console, and she enabled a zero ETL integration from Aurora through to Redshift. And that's how we get the near real-time player metrics, gamer telemetry data. She also had the foresight to realize that Nisha may actually get value out of player demographic data. This data sits in Salesforce. And so she set up a second zero ETL integration from Salesforce through to the Lakehouse. And remember how Nisha hit subscribe for this data? It shows up as a notification for Samantha. Samantha hits approve, and boom, Nisha has access to it right away. And then thinking more, Samantha realized that there's actually a MySQL database that sits on premises that also has player data that could be valuable when combined with the newer data that's in the cloud, because Maxdome is still in the process of migrating completely to the cloud. So she sets up a federated connector from this MySQL database that's on premises through to the Lakehouse, and now Nisha and all the rest of the team can access this on-premises data. Samantha also configures fine-grained permissions for this MySQL database so that only the people who should have access to the right sets of data get access to it. And I'm pleased to announce that yesterday, we launched support for Athena fine-grained access control for federated connectors. Now, coming back to Samantha, all of this took her just 10 minutes, setting up the zero ETL integrations for the different sources, setting up access to a federated connector, hitting the approve button, and compare this to the days or weeks it would have taken her before to set up ETL and manage them. Now, before we move on from the Maxdome team, let's go back to Nisha one last time. Nisha has done some brilliant work. Word's gotten around. People want access to the data. Nisha is a team player, so she wants to give access. However, she's also worried that if everyone across Maxdome starts using the same compute cluster, there could be a noisy neighbor problem. So instead, she packages up this Redshift data in what's called a data share and publishes it. And now her teammates, whether they use different AWS accounts or different geographies, can run queries, read and write queries, on the same copy of the Redshift data. And what makes this possible is this new capability we launched last week called Redshift multi-cluster writes. Now, Redshift has supported multi-cluster architectures for a while, and it's been very valuable for customers to scale out their reads. But customers asked us to do more. They wanted write capabilities as well, which is what this capability now does. So you can spin up compute-isolated Redshift clusters, all working on the same copy of data, both reads and writes. And we went one step further and said, why stop at just Redshift endpoints? With Redshift's integration into the next generation of Amazon SageMaker platform, you can spin up not just a Redshift SQL endpoint, but also a Spark endpoint, an Athena endpoint, a Glue endpoint, a Bedrock endpoint, a SageMaker endpoint, in fact, any endpoint from an engine that is Apache Iceberg compatible. So all of what we've discussed so far is built on a foundation of a broad and deep set of services that support a wide range of workloads, ranging from Bedrock and SageMaker AI, which is used by tens or hundred thousands of customers, Glue, where customers run hundreds of millions of jobs a day, Redshift and EMR, which offer industry-leading performance and price performance. And while the team has been very hard at work to make sure that you have a seamless experience across all of these services, we still believe that customers should have the right tool for the job. And that's why we've been furiously innovating on each of these services over the entire year. Just a few examples. So with SageMaker AI, last year we announced support for hyperpods, which maximizes GPU utilization, reducing your cost by up to 40%. And just today, we announced task governance for SageMaker hyperpods, which allows you to specify limits and priorities for different teams and projects. This, in turn, allows SageMaker to allocate resources based on your priorities to maximize GPU utilization while also reducing idle time, therefore saving you money. In the case of Redshift, we talked about multi-warehouse writes, but we've also done some really cool stuff this year in terms of AI-based innovation, both under the hood and also externally for customers. So we now have AI-powered techniques to automatically scale Redshift to find the right balance between price and performance, reach it and maintain it, based on a specification that you provide on a sliding scale between price and performance. In terms of external capabilities, you can now invoke Bedrock foundation models from within Redshift SQL, so that simplifies generative AI applications. And then, just today, we announced Redshift as a knowledge base for Bedrock. And what this means is that all of the structured data that you have in Redshift is now available for retrieval augmented generation or RAG use cases for your Gen AI apps. In the case of EMR, I'd highlight job concurrency and queuing control, which limits the maximum concurrency that you have at any given time. This is a fantastic feature. And the reason is that when you hit a resource limit, let's say it's the number of vCPUs or the number of IP addresses you have in your subnet, we automatically queue up the remaining jobs. And when resources free up, we retry them. And this is great because it reduces the number of failures because we hold on to the jobs. It also saves you all the effort and complexity of building and maintaining your own queuing system. For Glue, just like with Redshift, a lot of cool AI-powered innovation under the covers, in this case, for upgrades and for troubleshooting. So if you encounter a Spark job failure in Glue, Glue uses AI-powered techniques under the covers using execution logs, job configuration, metadata, to identify the root cause automatically and provide actionable recommendations. This reduces debugging time from hours down to minutes, saves you the need to dive into the documentation, and also, perhaps you don't have to call support. And last, Bedrock. Matt had so many great announcements yesterday. I'll just call out one here, model distillation. With model distillation, you get 500% better performance at up to 75% lower costs, and only up to 2% of inaccuracy or lower accuracy on your RAG use cases. This changes the game, because inference goes from being something that is potentially expensive to now a very valuable and core part of your builder toolkit. We've covered a lot of ground today. Stepping back, AWS has a broad and deep set of purpose-built, best-in-class analytics that span Spark, SQL, and GenAI workloads. You've used these AWS services for years to power your insights. And now you can use the next generation of the AWS SageMaker platform, which brings these services together in a seamless experience. And of course, it's not just AWS services. We're very grateful to our customers and partners who have come along with us in this journey. As just one example, we're very excited for our partnership with Confluent, where together we're now enabling customers to use Confluent Tableflow to create Apache Iceberg tables out of their data, stored in the Lakehouse, which then allows our joint customers to power numerous real-time innovations. With that, please join me in welcoming Don Wu, Chief Data and Analytics Officer for New York Life, to share about their journey to the cloud and also share how they envision transformation with this platform.
That's how I get into work. It's not as cool as Kamal, but it's less noisy and a lot less dirty. So, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Don Vu, and I'm the Chief Data Analytics Officer at New York Life. I'm humbled and grateful to be representing our New York Life's AI and data teams and sharing our data modernization journey with you. It's a key component of our broader AI and data strategy. For those of you that aren't familiar with New York Life, we're the largest mutual life insurance organization in the US and one of the largest financial services companies in the world. We're a purpose-driven company that's owned by our policyholders, and for over 175 years, we've been trusted by millions of them. Across all of our businesses, we understand that our clients, agents, and advisors, everyone expects exceptional, seamless experiences. And we know that the foundation for those experiences are technology, data, and AI. I joined New York Life about a year ago, and I remember settling into my job in that first week and grappling with something that I was dreading since I heard about it in my first interviews: Hadoop. Who here remembers Hadoop? Who here would like to forget Hadoop? I've been in data for over 25 years, so of course I remember Hadoop, Hive, Pig, all the farm animals in the ecosystem. And Hadoop had its place in time. When we first started our journey and we implemented our Hadoop data lake many years ago, it really helped us wrangle our data from all across the enterprise into one single place. But it was time for us to move on, and like any data platform migration, we had a fair amount of complexity to deal with. Thousands of users, thousands and thousands of dashboards, dozens of mainframe and legacy sources, using languages like COBOL, CICS, IDMS. Fortunately, our data team had already had an initiative in flight to migrate off of Hadoop. We just had to see it through. Our modernization plan had us moving into AWS and leveraging the data services that many of the folks in this room are familiar with. And we'll dig into the platform details in a minute. But first, I want to talk about a couple challenges that we had to contend with. First and foremost, we had an aggressive timeline to complete our journey by the end of the year, inclusive of moving 1,000+ users over to a whole new stack of tools. The other major problem that we had is we had to contend with Conway's Law. We didn't want to just do a lift and shift and bring old data platform problems over into the new environment. In the previous platform, the company had one shared enterprise data platform, but each business line and their respective data teams had been given the freedom to create their own data silo. That led to fragmented views for key domains like client, product, sales, and even our agents and advisors. We knew that we had to address this issue in our new platform if we were going to unlock the intrinsic value of New York Life's data. And that's critically important to us because we fundamentally believe in the power of client experiences driven by a virtuous data flywheel. It all starts with data, ideally proprietary, aggregated into a trusted and organizational view, and ultimately activated by the entire enterprise. For us, that includes a singular Client 360. That captures all the behavioral, transactional, demographic information that we have across all human and digital touchpoints. From there, we leverage analytics, machine learning, AI to gain insights and to begin to create intelligent experiences like a next best action with generative AI-powered personalization. These solutions need to be activated in the client experience, whether through a personalized content in our mobile app, through timely reach out from one of our advisors, or a proactive recommendation from a service professional during a customer service call. Each of those activations creates a feedback loop, which we continuously optimize on, and the flywheel continues on. Our data flywheel runs on an engine, and that engine is our new platform in AWS. You're all familiar with the components of our data platform: S3, Redshift, Glue, Bedrock, SageMaker, Lake Formation, Aurora. Most of these are old hat for many in the room, including me, but we're most excited about two things. First, one common data foundation across all use cases. We have the same platform and set of data, whether it's being used for operations, insights, or AI. The same Client 360 data product that's used to power our customer-facing applications via APIs will be leveraged for analytics and AI solutions. Secondly, one ecosystem for all team members. We talked about innovation and data and AI as a team sport. We've had a tangled web of data sets and tooling that we're now whittling down. Teams will be able to work in the same place with the same tools, whether team member is an analyst, a data engineer, an analytics engineer, or a data scientist. The other thing we're excited about in our journey is we've been multi-threaded. Although we've had incredible commitment to getting off of Hadoop, we wanted to continue to innovate at the same time. Last year, when we leaned into generative AI, we were intentional about building solutions that were strategic. In the same platform we were migrating to, we knew that the platform needed to handle unstructured data as well as it did structured data, inclusive of data pipelines, metadata management, and data governance. So that's what we did. Service Sage is our Gen AI solution for customer service professionals. When we scaled Service Sage from POC to production, we did it in AWS with efforts that span people, process, and tech. AWS professional services helped us stand up our solutions, partnering with our technology professionals. AWS experience-based acceleration ramped up our collaboration across business, tech, data, and AI teams. And of course, from a technology perspective, we leveraged our entire data lake, Bedrock, Claude, OpenSearch, VectorDB, all the pieces of the puzzle that we talked about earlier. And most importantly, it all just worked. Service Sage is in production and producing measurable business impact. So that was a peek into the most recent chapter of our journey. I'm proud of what our teams have accomplished in the last year. We were able to modernize, operate, and innovate all at the same time. We look forward to completing the final parts of our Hadoop migration at the end of the year and officially unplugging the machine soon. I think I'm going to officially have to do that. The most exciting part, this is just day one, and we're just getting started. In our next chapter, we'll be maturing our platform's data products and capabilities across operational, insights, and AI use cases, and partnering across the enterprise on activations. To deliver on our vision, we look forward to evaluating Amazon SageMaker Lakehouse and SageMaker Unified Studio. We're excited about how they'll provide us with a unified view of our data in a single platform and deliver a business user-friendly experience across all our services. Thanks so much.
Cool jersey.
Hey.
People just
Nice
on the
jersey,
Maxdome team?
too. Yeah, I just joined the Maxdome team. It's awesome.
Excellent.
It's an awesome experience now. So with the next generation of Amazon SageMaker, every team can focus on what's important: driving innovation, delivering incredible experiences, and making data-driven decisions that move the business forward. The mission here is not about technology. It's about empowering people, unlocking their full potential, and turning data into a strategic asset for the company. And as you can see, working together as a team is important in everything for all of these teams. It's what helps our soccer team get to their end goal.
And the same is true for your data teams, whether you're building an incredibly powerful dashboard or the next killer Gen AI app. Amazon SageMaker unifies fast SQL analytics, petabyte-scale data processing, data discovery and integration, model development and training, and generative AI development.
Thank you, everyone.
And thank you. Have a great rest of your weekend.